Did you hear that? Those whispers? Now let me ask you something. Have you ever heard a rumor about yourself before you even had the chance to live the story? Maya had. Now, this is a fictional example, but I promise every single one of you will have a name in mind. Maya. She was confident, prepared, and ready to win a competition until she got a fever the night before. And suddenly, she becomes the hot topic. She wasn't sick, she was scared. She was the typical Maya who panics and drops out. All this over something that wasn't even real. Now, here's a statistic to hold. Isn't it crazy how 65% of our daily conversation involve talking about people who aren't even in the room with us? In other words, the version of gossip that most of us recognize. But ever wondered why gossip exists? I mean, we weren't born with it. Clearly, we built it. Let's go back 200,000 years. This is Oren. He didn't have Wi-Fi or iPhones or cousins who would spam Instagram reposts, but to survive, he still needed to know who he could trust, who would help, who would cheat. How do you think he did that? Before language, he used grooming to build trust. But that only works for tiny groups, let's say 50. Then enters language. Do you know this guy? That's anthropologist Robin Dunbar. He was the one who found that humans can maintain about 150 relationships. You see, grooming doesn't scale, talking does. And that's exactly how gossip became our first social technology. It works like a blame game, assigns roles to people that we didn't even ask for. You see, there's a villain, there's a victim, and then there's the informer. And once those labels stick, they start to feel permanent because our brain absorbs drama long before accuracy. Now let's enter into a ballroom. Long before Instagram tea pages, we had her. Familiar? Lady Whistledown, the anonymous columnist who made secrets public and reputations fragile. More power than the queen herself. Not because she was royal, but because she had information. Her pen crowned some, condemned others, and warned the rest. It was the original media outlet before newspapers or the anonymous pages that we pretend we don't check at 2 a.m. And to be honest, she is the proof that society has always had that one person. Every school, every office, every friend group has a Lady Whistledown. Now, if you're sitting here thinking, wait, who is that in my group? I'm not saying it's you. I'm just saying someone in this room is very nervous right now. Now tell me why gossip feels so good. Why do we enjoy it so much? That's because our brain treats it as connection, information, and safety. It's literally a biological wiring. Even more interesting. You hear something about someone from a friend, then it's 3 people talking about it. Soon it's 7. And the next thing you know, your entire grade is talking about it. Except no one actually knows if it's true. That is the illusory truth effect. It basically tells us that when a lie is repeated enough times, your brain automatically starts treating it as a fact. Not because it's accurate, but because it's repeated. So here's what happens. The fake becomes familiar, and the familiar becomes believable. Now comes the fun twist. For a long time, gossip was described as something women did more, right? Almost as if it were a gendered pastime. But when researchers actually came up with gossip behavior, the results were quite straightforward. Let's see. Women tend to share information in more detailed, context-rich narratives, which makes sense, right? Because complete data usually leads to better conclusions, just like a Netflix documentary. Men, on the other hand, they lean toward brief, surface-level updates like a Twitter news alert. Now, since I'm a woman standing here saying this, Let me reassure the room. We know exactly where we stand. And we know exactly where you stand, gentlemen. That's not an opinion. That's just consistent observational accuracy. So whether it's a 40-minute emotional arc or a 3-word announcement, it still serves the identical purpose. Tell me honestly, do you really think our future generations will only be managing their health and wealth? Of course not. They're going to be managing their narratives as well. Look around, it's already happening. Companies hire reputation managers, nations run propaganda units, and influencers build entire image teams. We've basically industrialized gossip. So our previous generations witnessed gossip fade, and ours is the one who sees it archive. But let's be fair, we can't just eliminate gossip, right? So if we agree to that, then the next question becomes, how do you make it mindful? How do you not make it worse? Because it usually just starts with someone saying, hey, make sure you don't tell anyone, which is historically the most reliable way to guarantee that everyone will know by the evening. And that's exactly why I created the 2Q test. It's very simple, it's very quick. All you have to do is you take a pause, you think, and you ask yourself, is it true? Hold on. True enough that you would confidently repeat it in front of the person you're talking about. And is it kind? Kind enough that it doesn't harm someone who isn't even in the room to defend themselves. That's how you make gossip mindful, by slowing it down long enough to realize its weight. It's that easy. Now let's flip a coin for a second. What if I say, someone in this room knows something the rest of us don't? I don't have to name them. Your brain probably picked one. But when it comes to us, suddenly it's a thriller and we panic. And you'll be like, no, that's not true. That can't be me. But imagine seeing it differently. How it reveals what people think of you, how they perceive you. And fortunately, perception can be redesigned. So the next time you come across this, you know what you have to do? You take a pause, you think, and you ask yourself, does this define me or expose them? Because here's the irony. It's harmless when it's someone else's, but unbearable when it's ours. So maybe the real fear isn't gossip. It's the version of us living rent-free in someone else's mind. But it dissolves. The moment the next story arrives, people forget, the plot changes, the characters rotate, and the dramatic thing you heard on Monday becomes the old news by Wednesday's lunch break. And the funniest part? Even this talk, this entire conversation about gossip is gossip about gossip. We're basically standing inside the illusion, describing the illusion while contributing to the illusion. That's the nature of Maya. So if gossip is inevitable and temporary, then the only thing that really stays is how we choose to go beyond this boundary. Because illusions may fade, but integrity doesn't. And that is the one thing that Maya can't touch. Thank you.